Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San Leaders, Nkosikazi Mhlawuli. Nosand. Nosand. The Deputy Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San Leaders, Khoi Sitolo. The Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Minister Dlamini Zuma, Amakhosi Namakhosikazi, members of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San Leaders, chairpersons and deputy chairpersons of provincial houses of traditional and Khoi-San leaders, cabinet ministers and deputy ministers, president and deputy president of Contralese, the leadership of Salga, and the leadership of our Municipal Demarcation Board, the chairperson of the National Khoi-San Commission, the Director General, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. When we met in Cape Town at the 6th opening of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San Leaders, we agreed that this house and this institution remains an embodiment of our collective history, our heritage, and a common sense of national identity. The existence of this institution qualifies it to play a critical role in human development and that of our traditional communities. It is for these reasons that we committed to ensuring that this institution of traditional and Khoi-San leadership remains relevant in our democracy, and that it proactively responds to the needs and interests and aspirations of our communities. We also agreed that this year, the response to the address at the opening of the National House of Traditional Leaders will take the format of a dialogue, as per your humble request. Well, I'm told by the minister that if it's supposed to be a dialogue, it should be a round table, not like this. We'll try and improvise. At this dialogue, we expect to find each other as government and the institution of traditional and Khoi-San leaders, and that we emerge out of this dialogue having agreed on the course of action to take to ensure that the institution is enabled to fulfill its expected mandate. We also reiterate how pleased we are at the genuine steps that you have taken towards the transformation of this sector. This is evident in the recent elections of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson, respectively, who together are representatives of women and the youth of our country. The election of the chairperson in particular bodes well in affirming the ongoing struggle to have women in positions of authority. These elections could not have come at a better time than now, when we take stock of strides that we have made under the observation of International Women's Day this past Tuesday, whose theme is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. On our part as government, we are committed to supporting the leadership of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders by providing an enabling environment for the institution in order to succeed in positively affecting the overall development of our communities and the country, thereby instilling hope for the sustainable and a better tomorrow. This is in line with the people's expectations that their needs and aspirations, and that their realization of their right to development is not stunted as a result of unnecessary contestations amongst ourselves and all spheres of government. To achieve this, we have to work together in partnership and be at one in terms of the program of action with clear implementation timelines and encapsulated in a social compact between government and this institution. Unity of purpose is the cornerstone for any society that aspires for greatness and is determined to prosper. As we have announced during the 6th opening of the National House and during our engagement with traditional leaders in Limpopo province last week, the President and this government are committed to respecting the role and the contribution of the traditional and Khoi-San leaders in the development agenda of our country. That is why the President has established an interministerial task team to deal with the specific issues that you have raised over time with government. Whereas the issues that the interministerial task team is entrusted to address may not necessarily be new matters. The very establishment of this task team is an act of assurance by government that we are committed to the resolutions of these problems. Such a task will require that we work together in unison and not be distracted by partisan interests above those of our people. Our commitment to you is to move faster in responding to any areas of concern that you may have raised and you will raise as we go forward, which may not have been responded to and may derail our efforts of building a thriving nation and thriving communities. The establishment of this interministerial task team as a coordinating structure to respond to matters that you have raised is an attempt to ensure that we consolidate our responses as government in an integrated manner that will yield tangible and impactful results. We must not shy away from leaving no stone unturned. Having said that, we should be mindful that some of the issues will not be addressed overnight. There are those that are of short-term in their nature, mid-term and long-term. A lot of what we seek to do was said during the 6th opening of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San Leaders. This shall form the basis of our dialogue, as well as the proposed solutions to prevailing challenges that we're confronted with as respective leaders and sectors. We are pleased that today at this dialogue, we have representations from national and local government, the Municipal Demarcation Board, the Commission dealing with Khoi-San matters. Therefore, this dialogue presents an opportunity for us to place all the issues on the table and ensure that we come out in agreement on the direction that we must take for the betterment of traditional communities that we represent, as well as the prosperity of our country. Our approach to this dialogue, Chairperson, is structured around the pillars of land ownership, tenure rights, and economic development. Economic development in rural communities, social cohesion and nation building, policy and legislation on powers and functions of our traditional and Khoi-San leaders on issues of development, institutional capacity and support to the institution of traditional and Khoi-San leaders in rendering their services to their respective communities. We have with us today ministers and deputy ministers who form part of the interministerial task team, and they will provide inputs on these matters in order for us to have a substantive engagement as we try to resolve these challenges before us. We also hope to hear from respective provincial houses of traditional and Khoi-San leaders, perspectives from provinces on where we are, best practices on how to take all our other proposals forward. We are pleased that much work is taking place within government to address some of the issues that the institutions has been raising. And this ensures that we will not be reinventing the wheel on some of these matters. As we implement all these initiatives, we should be mindful of some constraints that have been presented by COVID-19. We appreciate the ongoing guidance and support from the institution of traditional and Khoi-San leaders that you have provided since government first introduced COVID-19 containment measures, as well as on the rollout of vaccines against COVID-19. During today's deliberations, we look forward to hearing further from our traditional and Khoi-San leaders on the implementation of the COVID-19 risk-adjusted strategy, including responding to the update on this strategy that will be provided by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Furthermore, we would like to remind all that are present here today that the month of March is regarded as the TB month worldwide, because on the 24th of March each year, the world commemorates those who lost their lives to TB. It is also a month to mobilize all sectors of society to play an active role in the fight against TB. The burden of this disease remains a leading cause of death and ill health globally, and particularly in South Africa. During the 2019 commemoration, we appealed to traditional and Khoi-San leaders to be champions of TB messages in their communities and help in finding the missing TB patients. We did this for we understand that the important role and the influence that traditional and Khoi-San leaders have in our country, more specifically within traditional communities. That the same appreciation of your role in the fight against TB equally applies to your role in the fight against COVID-19 and in the advancement of development generally. I think we all agree that no one should die from these curable diseases. This remains our rallying call to this day as we move towards this year's World TB Day commemoration that will be hosted in the Northern Cape province. And our call for a concerted policy in action in the fight against TB, HIV and AIDS, STIs and COVID-19, and all other communicable diseases. Let us continue to work together with our communities to end TB. We want to appeal that we use this time today to engage one another in a manner that proposes solution. Let us utilize this dialogue to further communicate to society that to us collectively, it is the people's interest that matters the most than our petty personal issues. And we commit ourselves not to fail our people. Thank you very much. I'll now call the chairperson of the House,